Hi, everyone. This is Sean with the MassSupport Network here with your COVID-19 update for Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. Big developments this week. First of all, the CDC does recommend resuming the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, just with a warning advisory that there is a very rare possibility of developing blood clots after taking the vaccine in the following 2 weeks or so. It said the odds of that are still much lower than a lot of regular things people take every day, like birth control pills, for example. So that is not a huge risk there. It may be a factor in leading to vaccine hesitancy, though, as people think that level of risk is going to be dangerous for them. In other news, the government announced today that they are going to start sharing resources with India, which is currently the hardest hit area of the world right now, with over 300,000 cases per day on average, which is about as many as the next 10 countries combined. So that aid is going to include some vaccine components, PPE, ventilators, tests, etc. The components are especially important because India has some of the largest vaccine manufacturers in the world, but those facilities are not very useful if you don't actually have the materials to go into them. Another thing that's going to be shared as well, perhaps not just with India though, is the AstraZeneca vaccine, which we have about 60 million doses sitting around because it has not been approved for use here. But there are many other countries where it is in full use and we can send it out there. So looking at vaccines across the country, 290 million total vaccines have gone into the state. 6.7 million vaccines have arrived here in Massachusetts. That's almost enough to give one for every Massachusetts resident. And 230 million have been administered across the country, with us here giving 5.8 million. So right now, 139 people in the United States have received at least one vaccine dose. That is 53.9% of the adult population. In Massachusetts, we've given 3.6 million doses, or 3.6 million people have received at least one dose, which is 65.8% of the population, the adult population. So basically 2/3 of adults in Massachusetts have received at least one dose. In terms of fully vaccinated people who have received 2 doses or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, are 95 million adults in the United States, which is 37%, and 2.3 million here in Massachusetts, which is 42.2% of the adult population is fully vaccinated. However, while those numbers all are very exciting in the front of it, we are definitely in a downturn in terms of vaccine distribution, or administration rather. This chart shows the number of vaccines given per day since we first started rolling them out in December, and it steadily increased with one dip there in February. But then in the last week or two, things have dropped off steadily. Now, some of this is probably related to the Johnson & Johnson pause, but it's been less week over week for about 2 weeks now, and that is definitely slowing things down. As we look at the age demographics of people who are getting the vaccine, this is the percent of each population that has gotten at least one dose. You can see it has trailed off the most in the 75-year-plus category. Obviously, they were some of the first people vaccinated in largest numbers, but now perhaps we've reached the point where those people who are going to get the vaccine have gotten it. Younger age groups are still trending upwards more sharply, but again, this is because a lot of them have only just become eligible for vaccination. And so the people who are most eager to get the vaccine are the ones who's getting it now. We may see that trail off soon. And when we look at the projections of how we're doing here, on the left is the New York Times projection of the rate at which we're doing the vaccines compared to week over week. When would we reach 90% of the population vaccinated? So that's last week on the left. This is this week on the right. As you can see, it has slowed down a lot. Now that pushing things back, almost a month there for a lot of these. So that is disheartening, slowing down. Now here in Massachusetts, we're likely to keep the pace up for some time, but there's going to be large parts of the country that are not getting those vaccines in the pace that we need them to. And one final thought, pertaining to your week. This is the blue whale at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, and it has now become a vaccination site. This is one of my favorite spots in the whole world, and people can get vaccinated there. Just thrills me. I wish I could be giving doses down there. For our sources, we've got New York Times, mass.gov, and the CDC. And for more from the MassSupport Network, you can find us on our website or on social media. And remember, wear your mask, wash your hands, and we'll be there if you need us. Stay safe.